everyone, welcome to the show. We have two guests today from the Solomon Islands. It's Premier Daniel Suidani, the former premier of the Solomon Islands' most populous province, Malaita, and advisor Celsus Talifilu, who's been working more than 15 years with the public sector and also with national and provincial political leaders and also with the United Nations. Gentlemen, could you please introduce yourself a little bit more and tell us who you are and what are you doing in DC?
Hello, thank you very much. My name is Daniel Suidani. I used to be the premier of Malaita province. I was voted in 2019. I was a teacher by provincial, a elementary school teacher before I come into politics as a provincial member for my ward. So we are here in the US to attend a indigenous uh, program in New York uh, uh, 2 weeks ago, and we are here for that program. So this is all about me, and I am here now in Washington D.C.
Good, thank you very much.
I'm Celsus Talifilu. As you've alluded to in your introduction, I've worked in the public sector of Solomon Islands for a long time. And then when the diplomatic relationship happened at the national government, I was there. I was the coordinator of the policy unit within the Prime Minister's office, the current government. Then I left and then joined the then Sweden-led government in Malaita province, the Mara government as it's been known locally. Yeah, and been with them until um, I think it was 2021. I provided political advice and those things of that nature to his government, to himself. And like he said, we were invited by Near Terror, a NGO from the United States that we've worked with in Malaita on indigenous matters, education, and things like that. So we were invited as part of the program to come and attend the UN United Nations this grouping about indigenous issues. Then we have been invited by some of our friends, some people here in Washington to come and tell our stories about what have happened with us in our province.
Good, your case is really unique because it kind of gives us lets us see the future. What happens if we let the CCP and China get its way? So what it did, I think, before, maybe we could compare it what it did before in Hong Kong and it's doing now in your country. I will just sum it up for our audience and very generally. Maybe you can then put some finer points into it. I will just describe it in general. So you were elected the premier of your province, and then soon in June 2019, then soon afterwards, your country switched recognition from Taiwan to China. Then you published a moratorium of no PRC companies allowed in Malaita. And then your country signed again a security pact with the PRC. Now, in February this year, you were ousted in a no confidence vote for not recognizing the One China policy and, again, another quote, collusion with Chinese Taipei. So could you please talk a little bit about those issues? What would you like to point out? What's more important for you? How would you like to comment on all this? I know it's a lot, but maybe you could choose what's more important for you.
Thank you. Well, as I've already mentioned, I came into power in 2019, and at the time, it was also the year that the switch happened. But we come up with the moratorium to stop the developments from CCP into the province, and there are other uh, conditions in the Auki Communique that's all about leadership. It's all about how we can, look after our resources, how we can look back and see what we can be meaningfully engaged with our resources for our children and the children of our children in the future. That is something we see that if we are not careful, then these destructive developments and exploitative developments that come to the province will be spoiling the resources. And we have seen like uh, experience we have had with the province of Malaita that these companies, the Malaysian Chinese companies that come under the logging industry, have left, dirty environments and they destroy the environment and the people do not benefit too much of the resources. So we come up with this communicate as a principal document that will guide the Malitans going forward in the development of the province with the resources. So there are two things that is, highlighted in the whole document. One is the ideology of religion, free religion, like the Maliti people being under the democratic principles. We are people who want to be like, we want freedom as well. And this communist people, Chinese Communist Party, they are known for their ideology of communism. So that is something we believe we cannot work together with somebody that has a different principle and values that we don't have. That's the first one because, like Malaita province is a Christian province, Solomon Island is a Christian country. So we need to have a friendship with people and the countries that we have shared the same values as well. Secondly, as I've said, we have seen like most of the development that come into the province, is nothing good. Looking back 40 years as the province come with developments and things that have been happening, we have seen the people, the resource owners, do not meaningfully engage and with the resources that they own. So that is all about this communique. But otherwise, the whole document is all about good leadership, trustworthy leadership in the province.
Okay, maybe I would like to ask Mr. Talifilu now, since you worked with international organizations, with the UN, what was their approach? Was there anyone who was also concerned, or was it only two of you and people around you, or was there any feedback from international organizations, any concern?
Well, the engagement that I've had with the United Nations was when I was with the national government in Parliament, actually. Uh, but in any case, uh, there are things like the international organizations have run their private things. They continue to go ahead with what they are doing in the province and in the Solomon Islands at large. So I have already left the United Nations before coming to Malaita province, so I have very little engagement with them at the time. But in a lot of engagement that we have had with other donors that have come to Malaita province, it's very obvious that they toe the same line, that Solomon Islands government has made a choice to make the tweets, and they have nothing to say about that because it's a sovereign decision. So that's what I've been observed in a lot of meetings that we have had with our other partners that came to Malete province when we were there. So basically, some of them are just silent. Some of them are just say, "Look, we just have to work with the government that has made the decision and the government that is put by the people of Solomon Islands."
Okay, please tell me, why is the CCP trying so hard? What's in it for them? I don't think it's the trade. They have enough. It's probably something more geostrategic. So could you please elaborate what's in it for them? Why are they trying so hard? Why are they buying off your country's elites and pushing so much for changing the status quo?
I think if one I have to understand how the behavior of CCP globally, and you can read this in materials that were written by people who have more depth understanding of the operations of CCP. There is the dominant idea that they want to conquer the world, I suppose, and in
Yes.
so doing, they they are finding strategic locations in the world that will give them the advantage should there be any kinetic war or something of that sort that happen. So they pretty much follow their leader, what their leader been saying to them in the Communist Party. So that I think that's the sort of understanding that we've understand and we have read about in some of the materials that were written by people who dedicate their lives in understanding the behavior of CCP globally. And in the Solomon Islands, if you look at how World War II came about, it was Solomon Island that the Japanese were there. They used that as a staging ground to attack the United States at Pearl Harbor. So I think that's quite strategic. And there is the issue of the second island chain, and if the Chinese can have their you know the the basis up to the Solomon Islands, then that would make it quite difficult for anyone to, the United States, maybe, or even the Australia, to have access to the United States because the sea lines there are pretty much, if they occupy the Chinese occupy, they have the control over that place.
So in a way, you're in a similar situation like Taiwan because you're just another step for the CCP to expand their influence. So I think it's a bit similar. Uh, I have a question, another one. Um, since you're now in the sea, how helpful was the trip and how much exposure did you get? How important is it for your country that both of you, after all the problems with your visa and then with it being denied at the beginning, and now you had a lot of exposure to scholars, to journalists, to politicians, how important is this for both of you and for your country?
I think, like, if we can go back to the issue of me being cancelled from the seat of being a member of the provincial assembly, and uh, for the reason that they have mentioned in the letters, for me, for not adhere to the one China policy. So that is one reason for out like canceling my position as being an elected member for my people. So, like, it's very important for both of us here. And if uh, if I'm correct, I am the first one being an elected member that has been ousted
Okay.
by not following the one China policy. And the minister of the provincial government in Solomon Island has, I think, he got the power to do that for not adhere to the one China policy. So this is very important for people to understand, and this also contribute to our coming here. Like, we want to remind the Pacific region that if we are not going to be careful about these people, they start to, from the resources, now they are going to touch the elected people from the countries and from the provincial government and from the people who look after the governance of a country. So that is something that I feel it's important for us to come and even share with the people here, like in the United States, because we feel that this place is the founding father of freedom and like liberty and all these things. So they need to know that we have been facing very concerning issues back at home in the Solomon Islands, like the CCP is now getting hold on things that they shouldn't have done to the elected leaders like myself. So this is something concerning, and like we want to make sure that this information must be made known to people in the Pacific region and in the Solomon Islands.
I would like to ask you one. Okay, sorry, you want to add something?
No, I mean, in addition to what Sweden has said, Look, although we are a small country in that corner of the world, we stood for the same values too. Uh, so the people we met here, we shared the same story with them. Look, when the Japanese came to Solomon Islands during the war, the people of Solomon Islands supported the Americans and the Allied forces because of the values. We want to be free too. We want our place to be free of things that we can do at ourselves. It was those values that we are able to help the Americans in the war that came to our source. So we are coming back here and say, look, do not forget that freedom is something we all share equally. Although you are a big country like other big countries, but when it comes to freedom, we all share it equally. So we want to come and share with you that our freedom, the freedom that we enjoy in our part of the world, if we are not careful, it will be distinguished. It will be killed off by the presence of communist China. So that we need to tell our story that what we experience now in the Solomons, especially with his government that was ousted and even him being cancelled of his seat, something that is unprecedented, and it could happen if they use that as a precedent as the to to keep on uh, supporting their views that they are dominant in the world, CCP. The other thing that we have come to realize too here in the States is that we have learned a lot. We have met the Uyghurs, the those that were, those that were treated badly in their own country in China. And we hear the stories, and the stories are very similar to ours in terms of how it all started. It's similar to us too, the good promises of good things. And we are happy that we are able to be told that you need to be careful. These things have happened to us. Look, now at the end, we have suffered tremendously at the hands of the people who have promised goodness for us. So I think we have learned a great deal as well. But we would like to remind, the Americans and the people here that we are people who look towards the countries like the mature democratic countries to continue to support, countries like Solomon Islands, who we are now experiencing an experience of having to choose between democracy or maybe the practices of communism. So that's what we are here to share, and of course to learn ourselves deeper more about how the CCP have conducted its affairs in other parts of the world. And today we just saw that the Canadian government have expelled one of the Chinese diplomats for the same reasons. So it's not happening in the Solomon; it's happening everywhere.
And I would also like to go back to something that happened to you, Premier, that you were blackmailed when you were sick, and the government said they wouldn't take care of your health, even they should. And then you stood up to them and you said, okay, so don't do it, but I'm not going to, you know, promote the one China policy. So could you please talk about this a little bit, because that's very unique.
Yeah, yeah. That was in 2021, I suppose. That's when I was sick. And the doctors from the National Referral Hospital, the one of the doctors, have recommended me to go for my treatment in Australia. And so that treatment itself cost a lot of money from the Mata Hospital in Australia. And so we are trying our very best to the committee under the teams that will send people to oversee for medical treatments have tried. They wrote a letter to the government, and after 3 months there is no response. So I was once met two of the government ministers, and they told me you can be supported if you like. You shake hands with the prime minister Sogovare, and then he can, you can be supported. So I said it would be better for me to die than to shake his hands, because I see there is no point shaking hands for a requirement that should be given to me as a leader in a country. So that is something very concerning during that time. But uh, I was so very happy, and would like to thank the people of Taiwan for
Yes.
giving me that opportunity that I can now heal and can speak tonight because of the help they look after me with the help they look after both of us during our trip. So that leads to this issue of the Solomon Star editor, Mr. Sasako, has uh, wrote some news in the newspaper saying that when I was in Taiwan, I was colluding with the U.S. and the Taiwanese people to set up a hit, like a
As a-
from
as-
the people to assassinate the prime minister. So that is all false. There's nothing true about that. I am there. I've got records of my sickness. So the records are still there, and I'm not going there because I'm okay, and I'm just going there to arrange such and uh, things like arranging for killing somebody. So these are things that they fabricate in order to tarnish my name, maybe with the government that I led, the Mara government for Malaita provincial people. And even this time, before I file a case against the informations against me in the newspapers as a defamation against my character, they still continue to put front page news about me, saying that I'm arranging some firearms and all these things. This is something not easy, and I know that people in the U.S. and Taiwan will, under the rules of engagement. This something it's not like it's illegal, and they cannot do it for anyone. So, but that is how they framed the whole thing for me to be arrested, and they're finding ways to get hold on me because of the strong stand in the Auki Communique, and the I am so vocal about things uh, uh, as a representative for my people in the province. So these things, like people know, when these people come in, you cannot talk freely. Somehow the newspapers and the media has been also like they use this media platform as propaganda against goodness of the people of Solomon Islands. So that is something concerning, and I would like to see that if anywhere possible, the U.S. The government can say something about this one because they might arrest both of us or maybe myself on my arrival back in the Solomons.
Yeah, I read yesterday an article in the Solomon Star praising and looking forward to opening, like praising the cooperation with China, looking forward to opening the embassy. So, yeah, I have a question because in that article I read yesterday, it said that your previous ambassador to Beijing died and they want to send a new one. Yes? Is that
Yes,
true?
yeah, the previous ambassador passed away, and the
Yes.
government have yet to replace him. There were a number of names published in the public, in the media, that could be the candidates that would be uh, vying for the position. So Sasako is one of them.
Okay, but is there anything more to that story that he died? Because I know in recent years quite a few foreign ambassadors died in Beijing, so there is nothing more to it. He just died.
Well, the thing about Solomon Islands at the moment, unfortunately, is even if people raise those issues, because the media has been captured already, they will use the media and say, "Oh, that's conspiracy theory and things like that." But some of us know, have read about that. There are a number of diplomats that have passed away of that
Yes.
in China, and unfortunately, that's the only information we have. There has not been any depth in terms of discussing that, finding out why
Okay.
they passed away and things like that. Because, like I've said, maybe the media in Solomon Island, especially those that may have still be independent, do not have the capacity to investigate. And Solomon Star, which is the premier one that report a lot about these matters, have been controlled already by CCP through Sasako and some of the gifts that they have given to the media outlet.
Another question, since we talk about diplomatic circles, you have since January or February, you have a new US embassy, right?
That's right.
And if I'm correct, because I checked it yesterday on the website, is there really an ambassador in charge, or only a charge d'affaires in the diplomatic mission?
Still a charge d'affaires.
Yeah, and so do you know, are there any plans to change that? Because a charge d'affaires in an embassy, that doesn't sound like a very high position. Should be an ambassador, right?
What we've been hearing about the recent visits by U.S. officials that have came to the Solomon Islands is that they were working on those matters. There were
Okay.
issues, there were questions raised as opposed to, I mean, even the visas we still have to apply outside of the country, and there were people who were asking why can't it be done in country, and the Americans have given the reasons for not. Having that at the moment. Maybe there's not enough demand, and there could be issues to do with cost and things like that.
One more question, because when we hear embassy, we probably think about the huge building but is this really like that kind of embassy, or is it just simply an office in a office building? Because I don't know how does the embassy look like? Is it like really an office or a building?
It's they have occupied the same place that they used to stay. It's a office. I think they have office blocks within a building.
Okay. 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 Good. I have a question, because I'm mostly interested in what's going really on in your country, because we don't know that much about it. So how do the Chinese, when they have now more influence and power and the support of, let's say, of your government now, how do they behave towards the host? How do they treat your people? Is there really like, do they behave like guests, or is there more and more, do they look down on you? Because that's what Chinese often do, in countries they don't respect. How does it look like on the ground?
I think it's fair to say that you can learn from the social media that people are complaining. And one of the issues that I've seen recently is that some of the shop owners, the Chinese shop owners, due to whatever they say, that some of the workers, the shopkeepers, may not take their wages in time because they say there are issues to with cash flow and things like that. And there are some things in the social media that show there are some kind of aggressiveness from the local I mean the Chinese, maybe because they felt quite strongly now because
Yes.
the government is there. So that is being now observed a lot. There are issues to do with, like, if you sell your goods to the Chinese, they will always ask for the lowest price. They would like to bargain with locals, but the locals cannot bargain with them in terms of offering prices. So those things are slowly coming in, and they are aggressively using some individuals in the Solomon Islands to be part of their networks. For instance, in Malaita province, they are even using people from the ministry that is responsible for mining to front up, or to aggressively promote their company and the operations. So those things are slowly coming in, and it's not the I mean, you can observe this is not a normal way that things should happen. If you
Yes.
want to do business in someone's place, there are places that you need to go to, and proper things need to be done. So yeah, I suppose there is a tendency now that the local Chinese have uh, have gained strength, I suppose, and it started when the switch happened, or at the arrival of the ambassador to Solomon Islands, after the switch happened. All of a sudden, we saw they have raised the Chinese flag everywhere, from the airport and in front of the shops. Something that we never think about before.
So sorry, it sounds a little bit like a colony. Is this what the Chinese is this how they are going more and more to treat you?
I
Like,
think I think their mindset seems to be heading that way. No, just because they control our trade. Mostly the Chinese have controlled trade in Honiara. So because of that, they have the money. They think that with their money, they can actually do what they want to do. And one of the observations that many have been seeing is in the eastern side of Honiara, there are lots of new development in terms of buildings, new buildings, new big buildings, and one wonders who are these buildings for? I mean, is this for Solomon Islanders or is this for who? So there is that question too. Like we have a lot of new buildings here. Who will occupy these buildings?
yeah, that leads me to another, maybe the last question, because I know it's late at night for you, you're tired, so thank you very much for your time. So my last question would be, how do you see your country in a year or two? We have elections coming up in Taiwan, elections coming up in the US, a lot will change. And how do you see the situation then changing in your country? I know you had elections that were postponed or delayed, so how do you see the situation also in terms of security? Because you're not an enemy of the US, but there have been some issues where you denied access to ships. How do you see the situation developing in the next 1 or 2 years?
Yeah, it's a delicate thing, but in any case, we can only look back at the practice of our leaders. In this case, what is the current government doing? What has it been doing with the democratic principles that people should abide to? So one of which is, you know, moving elections just for a sporting event. I mean, that's an indication that somebody is not thinking heavily on the principles of democracy. They are thinking more about something else. So if you look at that in that sense, there is that opportunity that it they might even keep on moving because the government now has the numbers to amend the constitution. They have amended the constitution for the elections for the current house to dissolve not in the 15th of this month in May, but on December 31st. And they are talking about an election to take place in April 2024. Whether that happen or not, we don't know. There are a lot of factors on the ground at the moment that may trigger the government to say, look, we have to deal with this, you have to deal with this, therefore let's postpone the election again. One can think along those lines as well. So, but given the opportunity for elections, so elections should happen so that the people can go to the polls and express themselves. At the moment, if things are still being controlled very much in Honiara and they can find opportunity to make an excuse, that might not happen. But as far as Malaita is concerned, uh, there is a lot of feeling amongst the communities that uh, I think it's time to find new leaders, leaders that can do things in a transparent way, in a way that is respectful, in a way that accommodate everyone, and in a way that is not secretive. At the moment, what we have seen with, especially dealing with China, everything is in secret. The MOUs, the whatnot, they've come out in the media say that they have signed this and signed that, but those documents never come into public. So I think the people at large have the concern that we must not allow this kind of thing to continue. And in that context, the bigger democracies around in the world, like the United States, Australia, Japan, Taiwan, wherever, Canada, they need to to at least say or keep on singing the same tune that democracy is what we needed. And there is all the need for elections to happen in the Solomon Islands. We would like it to
Okay.
happen before
Okay.
the games, but at the moment the law has been amended. But never mind, it must happen so that people will go to the polls and make the judgment about what the government is doing and who should be the next leaders.
Thank you so much, Premier. Would you like to add anything, like a closing remark?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for this very interview that we have. I think the bottom line of all this is that democracy should be upheld. This principle should be upheld in our countries. Those of us who have believe and have this system that we've been believing in freedom and liberty should be upheld in every way in the Pacific, where we live freely and enjoy the life and not fearing things in our own country by people who came just for different issues and matters of no concern. So my last comment on this is we need an election to happen, and the people of Solomon Island would be feel like they've been stolen from their democracy has been stolen if there is no election. Like it happened now. The election should be on September, but it has been, moved to April. The House of the Parliament should be dissolved on the May 15th, and that, to me, is a rest in peace issue. Like we have been losing something that is dear to our heart. So we would like to see elections to happen in the country. Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. I'm very grateful you found the time, even it's late, even you're both busy. And I wish you all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Good night.
Good
Good
night
night.
to you.